A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Countdown for blast off. X minus 5, 4, 3, 2, X minus 1, fire. From the far horizons of the unknown come transcribed tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in a million could-be years on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with Street and Smith, publishers of astounding science fiction, presents
X minus 1.
Tonight's story, Dr. Grimshaw's Sanitorium. What you will hear in the next half hour represents either a magnificent hoax or the true explanation of the famous Grimshaw Sanitorium scandal which made the headlines back in 1947. The manuscript upon which this account is based was removed by the New York State Police from a fountain pen cover found in the doorway to Dr. Grimshaw's study. We offer this manuscript as evidence only. Whether it is authentic or not, you must judge for yourselves.
My name is John Dougherty. I'm a graduate of Hamilton College, class of 34, member of Theta Alpha. I'm one of those fools who wanted some excitement in life, so instead of going into my father's shoe business, I became a private detective. These are facts. You can check them if you like. The rest of what I write here is so fantastic that I don't expect it to be believed. If anyone should find this manuscript and read it, all I ask is that you notify Miss Millicent Armbruster of 299 Wallace Avenue, Buffalo, that Johnny Dougherty is dead. On the evening of July 1st, Miss Armbruster and I were driving to a wedding. Not our own, although I wish it had been. It was Sunday, and in order to avoid traffic, I took the Old Mill Road, a single-lane dirt affair that runs past the Gowanda Cemetery.
Johnny, aren't you going too fast?
Not for this road. There isn't a thing around except some tombstones and...
Johnny, the gate to the cemetery.
What about it?
That hearse, look out! Look out!
We skidded for about 20 feet and slammed into the back of the hearse. The two rear doors buckled and snapped open. It was a freak. A huge oak coffin with brass handles tipped up and began slowly to slide back toward us.
Oh, how horrible.
You stay right here, baby. You okay, Mac?
You don't pay much attention to speed limits, do you, Jack?
Now, look, let's not get hung up on who was right and who was wrong. I was going too fast, and you were traveling without lights after dark.
Let's see your driver's license.
All right, here.
Oh. Private eye, eh?
Now, if you don't mind, who does this joy wagon belong to?
Gowanda Funeral Service. It's being rented to Grimshaw.
Who?
Grimshaw from the private sanitarium.
Mind if I ask what you were doing after dark coming out of a cemetery with a wooden kimono?
We're moving one of Grimshaw's patients to a new grave.
They always travel like this?
Look, Hawkshaw, how about skipping the third degree and giving me a hand getting this box back in the wagon?
A pleasure. Better screw on that cover again. It's going to slide off.
Let's get it in the hearse first.
Okay, Junior. You get on that end.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah, lift.
Just slide it.
Oh, brother, who's in there, King Kong?
Look out for the cover.
I told you that would happen. What's the guy's name, Junior?
Oh, why don't you ask him, Sherlock Holmes?
A real wise guy, huh? I've got half a mind to report this accident.
Yeah, well, go ahead. See where it gets you. Now, if you'll pardon me, I'll deliver the body.
Everything all right, Johnny?
I thought so until a few seconds ago. Listen, Millie, can you sit here in the car for another 5 minutes?
Where are you going?
For a stroll through the cemetery.
Oh, Johnny, stop making jokes.
When we lifted that coffin back on the meat wagon, I got a good look inside it.
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly how I felt. I figured we'd knock the stuffing out of the corpse, only I didn't expect the stuffing to be sand.
What?
Yes. That wasn't a body, that was a dummy stuffed with sand, a dummy with a wax face.
Johnny!
Which brings up an interesting question. Who's supposed to be in that box, and, just where is the dead man spending his time? Sometimes in my business, when things drop off, you have to go out and, dig up new clients. My next case was a gentleman named Harlan Ward Sr., a wealthy automobile manufacturer. I'd gotten his name off his son's tombstone.
Are you trying to tell me, Dorothy, that my son Harlan was never buried at Gowanna Cemetery?
Exactly, Mr. Ward.
But why?
Maybe if you'll tell me the circumstances surrounding your son's death, I can help answer that.
My son was a rather impetuous young man. Tall, good-looking. After his graduation from Princeton, he began drinking quite heavily. After he got into a couple of scrapes, we sent him to Dr. Grimshaw's Sanitorium in the hopes that he could be cured. While my wife and I were in Europe, we received word that he died, buried at Gowanna in our absence. Last week, my wife and I decided to have his body removed to the family vault here at Short Hills.
How'd your son die?
Suicide.
You never saw the body?
No, we couldn't get back from Europe in time. Now you tell me that his coffin contains a dummy. How do I know this whole thing isn't a plan to fleece me?
You don't. But you're a rich man, Mr. Ward, and you're perfectly willing to take a chance that I'm on the level and that your son may still be alive.
You sound very sure of yourself, Mr. Dorsey.
My fee is a $2,000 retainer plus expenses.
What sort of expenses?
However much it costs to take the cure at Dr. Grimshaw's Sanitarium. Dr. Grimshaw's Sanitarium was just outside Gowanna. Most of the cases were nervous breakdowns and alcoholics. I committed myself as a dipso, and just to make it convincing, I stopped at 5 or 6 bars on the way over. I was interviewed by Grimshaw himself, a small man with a fringe of white hair.
You understand, Mr. Doherty.
That's not my real name, of course, social reasons.
We understand. Our paid clientele is very select, and our rates are very high.
You will be paid in cash and in advance, Dr. Grimshaw. How long does a cure usually take?
That, of course, depends on the degree of alcoholism. This is my assistant, Dr. Boyner.
How do you do?
How do you do?
We are accepting Mr. Doherty as a patient. Better place him in the ward with Mr. K and Mr. Keiki. Mr. K is a long-term patient, Mr. Doherty, a highly intelligent man, formerly a professor of plant pathology. Mr. Keiki suffers mild delusions. I think you'll find him rather amusing.
After about 3 days, my roommates Arthur Kay and Crakey got used to me. And we even began to play three-handed bridge. Kay was a chronic dope addict, an intelligent, sensitive man. Crakey was nothing but a clown. He kept a big black cat named the Professor, which he talked to as if it were human.
And so I said to her, my dear Countess, if you don't like the company of my cat, then you don't like me. She looked at me as if I were insane. But, of course, the joke was on her because I was. Professor? The professor is very sociable. Excellent company.
Except when he kills birds and deposits them in your bed. He's nothing but a feline murderer as far as I'm concerned.
Ah, see? You have insulted him, Mr. K.
Come here, Professor. Let's make friends. How about giving me your paw? Oh! Scratch me, you black devil.
You insulted him. You hurt his feelings.
Well, just keep him away from me.
It will be a pleasure. I would advise you not to insult him again. Good afternoon and evening.
Is he always as nuts as that?
Ever since I've been here.
What's his problem?
Manic depressive. And a little paranoid, too.
How long have you been here, Arthur?
At Grimshaw's 2 years. I left for a while, but I couldn't stay away from the junk, so I committed myself again.
Did you, happen to know a patient here named Harlan Ward?
Why do you ask that? Did you know him?
I met him socially a few times. I understand he died here.
So the newspapers said. I wouldn't know.
Suicide, wasn't it?
Was it?
You're being pretty careful, aren't you?
Mr. Doherty, what would you say if I were to tell you that I don't believe Holland Ward is dead?
What makes you so certain?
He used to share this room with us. He slept in the same bed you now use.
I see.
He was an alcoholic, doing quite well, too, from what I could observe. We all expected him to go home soon. Then one evening he had a violent fight with Crakey. Crakey accused him of snooping or something. Later that night, Grimshaw and Voyner took him out.
Where?
Where they take all the special treatment cases to the charity clinic. It's that small building on the other side of the stone wall. A few days later, we read about his death. Suicide, they said.
Just what makes you think he's still alive, Arthur?
This? About a month ago, I was in the garden next to the wall that separates us from the charity clinic. Suddenly, I thought I heard a sound, like a child whimpering. It stopped. And a moment later, this note came over the wall, wrapped around a stone.
What's it say?
Help me, for God's sake, Holland Ward.
Arthur, how would you like to have some fun?
Like what?
Like sneaking out tonight and going over the wall to the charity ward? What do you say? It would break the monotony a little.
I suppose there's no real harm in it.
Of course not. I'd go alone, but I'll need help scaling the wall. Will you do it?
All right. I'll go with you.
All clear. Give me a hand and I'll lift you. Be careful when you drop. Ready? Go ahead.
There's a charity building over there, the one with the lights in the basement window.
Come on. Let's crawl over. Maybe we can see something. Shh. Listen. Can you make out what he's saying?
No, I can barely hear. Good Lord.
What was that?
Probably some patient having the DT.
Let's have a look. Easy, it wouldn't do to get caught now.
See anything?
Some sort of laboratory. I can see Grimshaw and Voyner and something else. What? There's a child with its back toward me.
Now take it quietly. It will be easier.
Please, don't.
It will all be over soon. You won't remember anything.
No, I don't want to go.
Why not give it to him?
No.
Shut him up, boy, now.
Good Lord. What was it? What did they do to that child? Mother, that wasn't a child. It was a midget. The smallest midget I've ever seen. What were they doing? Trying to give it some sort of injection. When it resisted, Voyner knocked it out.
What do you suppose they were doing to it?
I don't know, Arthur. All I know is that when it fell, it had the face of Holland Ward. All the way back to our room, my brain was working like some frantic pinball machine. Only the score somehow wouldn't add up. The pieces were there, all right. A crazy old doctor, a brutal assistant, a private sanitarium, and a midget with a dead man's face. I thought that when I got back to our room, I'd have some time to think about it. I'd forgotten about our friend, the happiness boy, Count Crakey.
So, I caught you.
Fine, you've caught us. Now how about crawling back into the woodwork like a good little count?
Where were you?
Mink hunting. Arthur and I like to go mink hunting at night.
You make fun of Count Crakey? I shall report you to Dr. Voyner.
You'd better not if you know it's good for you.
So, you threaten me? Me, Count Crakey? I shall scream for help. Help! Help!
Did you hurt him?
Just knocked him out.
What do we do now?
Put him to bed. Hope that when he wakes up in the morning, he's forgotten the whole thing.
And if he hasn't?
He's too crazy for them to take seriously anyway. Come on, let's get him back into bed. I went to sleep in my own room. And the next thing I felt was the sharp jab of the hypodermic needle in my left arm.
Hold it. It'll be useless to struggle, Mr. Doherty. In a moment, your motor nerves will be completely paralyzed.
What's this about, Grimshaw?
I might ask the same of you. My good friend Count Crakey informs me you and Mr. K decided to do some snooping earlier tonight. He followed you and saw you climb the wall.
Crakey's insane.
Mr. Doherty, that is a matter of opinion.
Craigie, what is this?
Perhaps my assistant, Dr. Grimshaw, would be good enough to explain.
Assistant?
Yes. You see, I am the actual head of the Grimshaw Sanatorium.
Count Craigie feigns many delusions, Mr. Doherty. But in this case, he is telling the truth. Count Craigie is actually Professor Ernst Hassler. Professor Hassler and I worked together in the Berlin Neurological Institute before and during the last war.
Unfortunately, my political affiliations with the Third Reich were under investigation by the War Crimes Commission. However, Dr. Grimshaw managed to smuggle me into this country, where I masqueraded as a mental patient, in order that we might continue certain experiments which were interrupted by the American Army.
I can imagine the sort of experiments you conducted.
You and your friend Mr. Kay will discover their exact nature very shortly, Mr. Doherty. It is a magnificent opportunity to serve science.
I passed out. And the next thing I knew, I was coming to in a different room and hearing the voices of Voyna, Grimshaw, and Craigie, as if from a great distance.
Pituitrin.
Pituitrin.
4 cc's.
4 cc.
How are the measurements?
Reducing rapidly.
We'll operate at once. Have Voyna start the anesthesia.
Very well, Doctor. Come back.
When I came to again, I had a blinding headache. I began to wonder if Craigie and Grimshaw weren't doing something to drive me insane, because I lost all sense of perspective. The room seemed to grow in size. I don't know how much time passed, but one day Craigie came into the room with a bundle in his arms about the size of a newborn baby. The bundle was my friend, Arthur Kay. And worse yet, I was exactly the same size that he was.
Let me out of here. Let me out.
Allow me to congratulate you, gentlemen. How are you feeling?
You dirty monster.
I'm disappointed, gentlemen. Do you not feel privileged to be a part of an experiment that will place me at the very top rank of the world's endocrinologists?
What are you doing to us, you madman?
It has long been established, gentlemen, that dwarfism and giantism result from injury to or malfunction of the pituitary and thyroid glands. The interlock between these glands was thought to be a hormone. I have discovered that this was incorrect. It was an enzyme. An enzyme I isolated some years ago. I was well on the way to synthesis in Germany when the surrender interrupted me. The interruption also limited the number and type of subjects on whom I could experiment. I was forced to find others.
Such as Harlan Ward?
Mr. Ward was only a control experiment.
I suppose you plan the same for us.
No, gentlemen. For you, I have reserved a special privilege. You, gentlemen, will be the first to test the full effects of the enzyme. In short, I intend that you, Mr. Kay, and you, Mr. Doherty, when the experiment is completed, will emerge as perfectly healthy, normal individuals. Except, of course, that you will be only 5 inches tall.
The days and nights that followed were a living nightmare. A nightmare from which Arthur and I awoke for brief periods to find ourselves in a strange new world. A huge, frightening world where everything seemed enlarged 100 times. When we finally emerged, we found ourselves imprisoned in a tiny mouse cage. Judging by the relative size of things, we could not have been more than 5 inches tall. Now we realized the experiment was at an end. That from now on, it was either escape or be destroyed.
How's it coming, Arthur? Another moment. I think I'll have this lock. Work loose. And if we escape, then what? We'll worry about that after we get out of this mouse cage. Suppose we don't make it. At least you've written the story on that scrap of paper. Someone may find it and read it. Nobody will believe it. Then why did you bother to write it? I don't know. I suppose I want the world to know what happened to me. Help me push the door open. Now what? The first job is getting down to the floor. I think we can make it by sliding down the telephone cord. Are you game? Go ahead. I'm right behind you. Easy now. Look out. That's does it. Now, if we can figure out a way to get out of the room, well, that should be... Uh-oh. Listen. Somebody's coming. It must be Quakey. We've got to hide. Here. Right in the fireplace. They'll kill us if he finds us.
Well, my friends, time for feeding. I trust that you... So, you have managed to break out. It won't do, you know. There is no way you could have gotten out of the room with the door and window locked. I know you are in here. I would advise you to save yourselves trouble and give up. Very well, my tiny friends. If you prefer to play the game of cat and mouse, then I shall be happy to furnish the cat. There is no way you can get out.
What now? He's gone for the cat. If that monster ever gets in here, we're goners. There must be... Wait a minute. What? You see that thin strand of wire running along the molding? What about it? It's the automatic fire alarm. When the alarm is tripped by a fire or short circuit, all the locks are sprung so that the patients can escape from their rooms. If I can short that wire before Quakey lets the cat into the building, let's go. There's a tiny sliver of steel from the cage on the floor. I'll work with that. You keep an ear to the door. Go ahead. This insulation is tough as rawhide. Blast this stuff. Hurry up, Arthur, for God's sake. There it is. Stand away. I'm going to short it. Ready? Okay. We made it. There goes the door. Let's make a run for it down the hall. If we can get to the garden, we've got a chance. That's no smoke. The shortening has actually started the fire. Come on. Wait a minute. I have to go back. The manuscript. Don't be a fool. There's no time. Come on. You go ahead. I'll catch up. Hurry up. I'll wait in the hall. Only a second. I've got it. Come on. There's nothing to stop us now. Arthur? Where are you? Honey? Arthur? Arthur? Arthur, what's happened to you?
This is the record found in a fountain pen cover in the burned-out hallway of Dr. Grimshaw's Sanitorium. There's nothing to add, except that the fire which destroyed the sanitarium and killed so many of its occupants, including Dr. Grimshaw and Dr. Voyna, was definitely of incendiary nature. It is believed by the fire chief that some small creature, possibly a mouse, chewed the insulation off the wire and short-circuited the system. The two patients, John Doherty and Arthur Kay, vanished completely after the fire, and their remains were never found. Whether the manuscript which you have just heard is authentic, or whether it was the work of one of the more demented inmates of the sanitarium, we leave to your judgment. You have just heard X-1, presented by the National Broadcasting Company in cooperation with Street and Smith, publishers of astounding science fiction. Your announcer, Fred Collins. X-1 was directed by Fred Way and is an NBC Radio Network production. X-1.
It all started in Los Angeles, when Jerry Hall heard a radio broadcast over his shortwave set. The report said that an old sailor had been picked up from a small boat in the Pacific Ocean and had told a fantastic tale about a little white girl living on a mysterious island in the South Seas. How near the truth the old sailor was, with his island of weird happenings, we shall soon know. Mrs. Patricia Gregory has come to the South Seas in her private yacht, hoping to find some evidence that there is such an island, and her little lost girl living on it. We find Mrs. Gregory, Captain Tex Bradford, and Jerry talking excitedly in the chart room of the yacht.
Now, take it easy, Jerry. There's no such thing as a magic island or a magic anything else that I ever heard of.
Then how do you explain the yacht being stuck for an hour, held right here by a bank of fog? We can't go forward or stern, and every instrument on board is dead.
Jerry's right, Tex. There's more to this than just a storm or a fog or a
Well, there is.
All right, all right. Now, Patricia, you just hold everything while we look this over. I don't want you to get your hopes up too high about this thing.
But this mysterious fog bank is right on the spot where the old sailor said the island was.
That's the whole trouble, Jerry. All we've got to go on is what some old sailor said.
But the radio report said he'd been a junior officer and a navigator.
Sure. He'd know about the position being correct and all that.
If he was in his right mind, yes. Don't forget that he was an old man, sick and delirious, nearly dead from exposure and fatigue. When he was picked up out of the open sea, he had no map, not a scrap of paper to verify the position.
But it said he left a diary on the Magic Island and that he kept it carefully for every day he was there.
Then why did he leave this diary on the island?
Well, maybe he was a prisoner there and had to leave without taking anything that belonged to him.
Oh, stop romancing, Jerry. You're raising Mrs. Gregory's hopes too high. She's been disappointed so many times in all the years she's been trying to locate this girl.
I know that. But this is near the spot where you were shipwrecked 14 years ago, isn't it, Mrs. Gregory?
It couldn't have been very far from here. I remember our position so clearly.
Well, the old sailor said we'd find something mysterious when we got to this spot. Well, gosh, that fog bank is mysterious enough, so part of the story is true anyway.
And if that much is true, why can't it be possible that Joan, my little girl, is on the island?
We've got to find out right away.
All right, the yacht won't move and the fog won't move. If there was an island behind that fog, we couldn't get to it.
I know one thing we haven't tried.
Oh, then let's try it. Try anything, only do something.
Captain Bradford, you told me that ray generator thing of yours would penetrate fog, didn't you?
Why, of course, Tex. You've been waiting a year for an opportunity to try your fog-penetrating machine. We can look right through the fog with that, can't we?
Well, we could if we could use the machine.
Oh, golly whiskers, that's right. The machine won't work. No generators. Won't the batteries pull it?
They would, but they're dead, too.
But we just can't sit here and do nothing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pat, but there doesn't seem to be anything else we can do until that fog lets go of us.
Now, look, fog can't hold a big boat. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, it adds up wrong for me, too, boy, but there it is. The bow of this boat is held tight against a bank of fog, just as solid as if we were anchored to a concrete wall. The engines won't push us through the fog, and they won't pull us off the fog. Every instrument on board is dead. Even the radio tubes are paralyzed.
Then there's only one answer. Electricity of some kind.
But where would the electricity be coming from?
No good, Jerry. We might be over a magnetic field of some kind that would throw the instruments out of order. I've seen that happen in a lot of places. But enough real electricity to hold a heavy boat powerless? No chance.
Oh, yes, Skipper?
Hurry.
What's up, Skipper?
Loose.
I think we are myself.
Drifting.
We're drifting, Skipper. The yacht's loose?
Yep. Get the engineer quick. Full speed astern. Hold her there till we get away from that fog or whatever it is.
Aye.
Come on, folks. Let's go topside.
Oh, boy. This is sure swell.
It's certainly uncanny enough, Jerry.
Ah, Jerry, come here. We're backing away all right. There stands your fog bank.
Now, we can start your fog light gadget and try it out.
You think we can actually see through the fog with it, Tex?
I know we can. But wait till we're safely away from that gray wall.
Here comes the skipper on the run. I wish he'd get excited enough to say more than one word at a time.
Hush, Jerry. He'll hear you.
Generators.
How's that, Skipper?
Generators.
They working all right now?
Aye.
Then the other instruments ought to be all right, too. Let's check our position again.
Checked.
Good old Skipper. Where are we?
Here.
Oh, we know that, but where's here? Here, show us on the chart. The exact position is important, you know. Here, Jerry, help me hold this chart still.
There.
Look, Mrs. Gregory. We're right where the old sailor said we'd find the Magic Island.
Everything working now, Skipper?
Is the radio okay?
Aye.
Thanks, Skipper. Hold her steady now. Just keep the motors idling. If we drift away a little, let her drift.
Aye.
Can I try the radio now?
No, Jerry. Let's don't call anybody in yet.
No, Jerry. If we have found something unusual, let's work it out for ourselves.
Oh, heck. I'm sorry. But I just thought of starting the radio.
Well, let's try my fog ray first. I've got my doubts about that thing over there. You and Pat stay here and watch that fog to be sure it doesn't disappear on us. And wake us up out of all this nightmare. I'll get my machine.
Gee, Mrs. Gregory, this is wonderful, isn't it?
Just like a fairy story, Jerry. And I'm so happy. I can't explain why. There isn't any real reason for it yet, but my little Joan seems so close now. For 14 years, I've never lost hope that she might be alive and well somewhere. And now... Oh, Jerry, if it could only be.
I know how you feel, Mrs. Gregory. Kind of empty one minute and full up the next. Like an elevator running up and down in your windpipe.
I couldn't have put it just that well, but that's exactly the way I feel.
Come over here, kid, and give me a hand with this thing.
Coming up, sir. Boy, that's a heavy contraption.
Captain Bradford has been working on it for years, and he expects it to do anything with fog.
Yes, it does work in fog. You know it does, Pat. Didn't we use it off San Pedro and see right through the fog? When it was so thick the pelicans were using foghorns?
I don't remember the pelicans, Tex.
No, I'll show you in a minute. Here, loosen those wing nuts there, kid.
Aye, aye, sir. And don't you mind Mrs. Gregory, Tex. She's only kidding you because she's nervous, and she's just got to do something.
You're a sweet boy, Jerry. You do understand, don't you?
Well, I know how you feel. She's my girl, too, you know.
Will you two quit talking about something that hasn't happened yet and lend a hand here? We're about ready to try it out now. Our fog bank hasn't run away on us, has it?
Looks just like it did when we ran into it over an hour ago.
Run in the cabin, Jerry. Take this line and cut it into the power plug, will you?
You bet I will.
Oh, Tex, maybe there is an island behind that fog. The old sailor could have been right, you know. Hurry and try it.
The tubes are warming up now. It'll be ready in a second.
Is it all ready to go now, sir?
All set, Jerry, and you can be the very first to try it if you want to.
Oh, golly whiskers. Can I?
Hurry, Jerry.
Yes, ma'am. Well, what do I do?
Well, now look. Extend that telescope out as far as you can. That's right. Then get down behind it. Put your shoulder against the stock and sight it just as you would a rifle. And when the fog begins to open up for you, run the telescopic sight in and out till you get the focus. And you'll see the ocean on the other side of that fog.
Boy, this is sure exciting. There now. I've got my sights on the fog bank.
How's the visibility?
Can't see a thing but a gray wall.
Well, hold your sights there. I'll run this barometer for you. Hold it steady now. Tell me the minute the fog starts to break for you.
Oh, hurry, Tex, hurry.
How's that, Jerry?
No, not a thing yet.
I've run through the whole visible spectrum. Here, let me take the sights, Jerry. That ought to be about it. There, now gently back so and...
Have you got it?
What do you see, Tex?
Well, I guess that's that.
Oh, Tex.
4 years' work. No use. I'm sorry, Pat.
Gee, Captain Bradford, I'm sorry, too.
Well, I've been disappointed before, son.
That was about our only hope, though.
There may be something wrong with your instruments in that gadget. Can you check them?
No use, Jerry. They check themselves. When you hear that high hum the oscillator gives off, everything's working. Every single unit in that layout is connected in series. And it either works or it doesn't.
But I can't understand it, Tex. The ray worked so perfectly off the coast of California. That fog looked just like this one. Why wouldn't it work here?
Hold everything, folks. I've got an idea.
Well, there's plenty of room for it here.
You remember when we all came up forward here? When the bow was stuck right into that fog bank and the motors wouldn't move the boat either way?
Yeah?
Yes, Jerry.
We all crowded right up on the forward end, right against the rail, didn't we?
Go on, son.
What are you getting at, Jerry?
That fog was right against us. It didn't seem to blow around us a bit. But you could hear the rush of the heavy wind.
I noticed that.
Well, I didn't at the time, but I remember it now. Go on, Jerry.
Well, that fog was right against us. You could feel it. We were there for minutes and minutes. But when we got away from there, after we had been standing in the edge of a fog, our clothes were perfectly dry.
Jerry. Well, he's right, Tex. Our clothes were dry, and we did stand right in the fog.
You hit something there, kid.
Sure. And look, Captain Bradford's fog machine worked all right off the coast of California, you said.
Why, of course. It worked perfectly, yes.
That machine will cut a path through the heaviest fog I ever saw.
But it wouldn't go through this stuff. So there's only one answer. That fog out there is not fog.
But in the middle of the ocean, it's got to be fog. What you suggest is impossible, Jerry. Why, it's fantastic.
Look at Captain Bradford's face. He was laughing at my magic island a little while ago, but he's not laughing now, is he? I tell you, there's something mysterious here. And that fog is not fog.
Presenting the amazing interplanetary adventures of Flash Gordon. These thrilling adventures come to you as they are pictured each Sunday in the Comic Weekly, the world's greatest pictorial supplement of humor and adventure. The Comic Weekly, now printed in 32 tabloid-sized pages, each page in full 4 colors, is distributed everywhere as an integral part of your Hearst Sunday newspaper. For the benefit of those who may not have heard the earlier episodes, let us explain that Flash Gordon, the internationally famous American athlete, and Dale Arden, his beautiful American sweetheart, and Dr. Zarkov, the well-known scientist, were thrown onto the new planet Mongo when their experimental rocket ship crashed. After a series of adventures with the Emperor Ming the Merciless and his beautiful daughter Aura, who fell deeply in love with Flash, the two Americans, together with Dr. Zarkov, soon Prince of the Lion Men, and Prince Baron, were sentenced to the prison city of the Hawkmen. There the men were tortured, while King Voltan, mighty ruler of the Hawkmen, made plans to marry Dale. Flash and his companions escaped from the torture chambers, and Flash found Dale in time to save her from the marriage. But they were trapped by soldiers and again fell into Voltan's hands. Then there was a terrible rumbling sound. The floor started to tip, the walls began to crack open, and the lights went out. Now we continue the story. In the crumbling palace of Voltan, amid the shouts of the disorganized guards, Flash and Dale break away, but the mighty king flies into the air and, hurling himself on Flash, drags him to the floor and prepares to execute him by his own hand. Meanwhile, Dr. Zarkov and Prince Baron are rushing toward the throne room.
My scheme works, Baron. Now to drive our bargain with Voltan if we are not too late.
The light beams diffusing at the present rate, friend Zarkov. The city will remain in midair only for another half hour.
If Voltan will listen to us, there is enough time. But we must not waste a minute. Here we are at the throne room.
Look. Voltan has his sword at Flash Gordon's throat.
Stop! Stop! Wait!
Hey, who dares give me orders?
I do. I can save your city. But if you harm Flash Gordon, I'll doom this city and all of you Hawkmen to destruction.
But all my radium's gone. You destroyed that yourself. How can you save us?
Since Baron and I have been experimenting with other atom rays.
Experimenting. Enough of this. I should have killed Flash Gordon but for your arrival and bluff. Now I shall finish the job.
Oh, Flash, my darling.
You brave Dale. This big windbag is bluffing now. Bluffing, am I? I'll show you.
Listen to us, you fat fool. Your city will remain suspended. Only 20 minutes more. There is no time to waste.
What do you think you can do to save the city, you wizard?
We have found a way to make new light beams to hold the city safely suspended in the air.
What kind of trick is this?
It's no trick.
Then let us see what you propose to do. But what?
I will save your city on one condition.
You know when to drive a bargain, old wizard of the earth. Very well. Flash Gordon shall go free if you save my city.
You must also free Dale and Zarkov and Baron.
Absolutely.
Be quick, Voltan. The precious minutes are flying. Give us your answer.
I'll pardon you all if my city is saved.
Good. Then follow me.
Where are you going to take us?
Into this private elevator first.
Where are we going, Dr. Zarkov?
Baron and I discovered a room under the Hall of Atom Furnaces, which had been stored with scientific apparatus. With the help of slaves, we constructed my newest invention, the didn't we, Baron?
Yes, we did, friend Zarkov. I only hope this bull-headed monarch hasn't delayed us too long with this arguing. There isn't much time left to save the city.
We're tipping over. How much further do we have to descend?
We will be below the foundation in a moment.
What is this remarkable discovery, wizard of the earth?
You shall see. You shall see.
We're here. Hurry out, everyone. Hold fast to my hand, Dale.
Oh, Flash, do you think Dr. Zarkov will be able to save us?
I know he'll do his best.
There is my invention.
What is that mass of tubes and wires?
This electrical machine is an atomic light solidifier.
It will
Strengthen the beam? Yes. Keep everybody back, Baron. I must have room to work.
Stand back, everybody.
Baron, do you think this machine will work?
Quiet. Professor Zarkov is throwing the switch.
What is that weird bluish light?
The new rays made by the atom sail.
Why, the city seems to be getting back on an even keel.
By Charles, so it is.
How is it working, friend Zarkov?
Splendid so far. The light beams supporting the city are becoming stronger and stronger.
And the city is saved?
The city is saved. By Charles, he's done it. All of you are free.
I say, you're crying.
I'm so happy we're saved.
Zarkov, come here.
He said he could do it, and he did.
Yes, King Vultan, you summon me? Zarkov, you shall be my head scientist. Vultan, this is more than I expect. I am grateful, deeply grateful, and appreciative of the honor. Flash and Dale.
Yes, Impressive Majesty.
What is it, King Vultan?
As proof of our future friendship, I shall give you a royal wedding tomorrow. And tonight, we shall have a banquet to celebrate it.
Having a good time, Dale?
Wonderful time, Flash. It hardly seems possible that we should be married tomorrow. I don't dare believe it until we are actually being married.
You mustn't feel that way, Dale. It's just nerves.
Well, my friend, tomorrow will be the big day.
I'm not so sure.
Dale is just worrying about nothing, Baron.
It's almost tomorrow, Dale. What can happen now?
During the excitement of the threatened destruction of the city, the Princess Aura disappeared.
Oh, is that all that worries you? I should think you'd be glad she's not here. I am.
Well, lovebird, are you enjoying yourselves?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Impressive Majesty.
Majesty! Majesty!
Eh? What is it?
The air fleet of Ming the Merciless is approaching the city.
Oh, this means trouble.
What did I tell you? There'll be no wedding for us tomorrow.
We'll die fighting.
No, Vulcan. Let us take our chances on escaping. Give us a rocket ship.
No use, lads. They were damaged when the city tilted.
His Universal Majesty, Emperor of Mongol, Ming the Merciless.
And Princess Aura. Now there will be trouble.
Steady, Dale, darling. There'll be a way out of this.
Greeting and welcome, Emperor Ming.
So, Vultan, you have become friends with the prisoners. Turn over this Earthman to my torturers, and to me deliver my promised bride, Dale Arden. I command it.
No, Father. You promised Flash Gordon to me as my share of the spoils.
Old Ming, by the ancient laws of Mongo, by the sacred laws of the great Cow, who is all wise, I call for a tournament of death.
A tournament? And this fellow Flash Gordon would enter?
Yes.
Fine sport. A tournament. And all the planet will see him fail and die. So be it.
Between four mountains nestles a mammoth bowl-shaped arena, toward which most of Mongo pours in never-ending streams. It is the day of the start of the Tournament of Death, in which all of the contestants but one will meet death. And Flash Gordon is going to enter. He and Dale occupy seats of honor in Voltan's box. Princess Aura enters the arena on a golden throne carried by 6 blue dragon men. Here comes Aura in all her glory.
He's wild, treacherous, and cruel. That's my boy. He's up to you, Dave.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Here comes Ugrid, king of the lion men.
The dragon men are frightened by the lions. They've dropped the princess.
Oh, stay where you are, my boy. Prince Baron is already picking her up.
She seems to be smiling at him. I wonder what he is saying.
Prince Baron, you have saved my life. Why did you do it after the way I treated you?
Because, my princess, you are a woman, a beautiful woman, and I can no longer deny the fact that I love you.
But whatever it is he's saying, I wish he'd get interested in somebody else and leave you alone, Flash.
The tournament is about to begin, Flash. There's your horse. Here, take this sword, my boy. It's the one with which I became king of the Hawkmen. Take it and justify my faith in you.
And my faith, too.
Thanks, darling. And thank you, Bolton. I'll do my best.
In another box, Prince Baron reaches a decision.
Zarkov, I'm going to enter the tournament, win back my kingdom, and Ming's daughter, Princess Aura, for my bride.
Do not be a fool, Prince Baron. Why run the risk of being killed?
Wish me luck, my friend. I go to do battle.
It's a battle royal with every horseman for himself. As the fight rages around him, Flash is beset by two yellow guardsmen. He vanquishes one, and as he is attacked by the other, he falls from his horse. Before the yellow man can drive home a death thrust, a masked fighter saves Flash, and the first great test of the Tournament of Death ends. A banquet is held for the survivors.
Are you sure you're all right, Flash?
Why, of course, Dale.
If it hadn't been for that masked fighter, you would be dead now. Oh, why did you enter this horrible tournament?
To win freedom, a kingdom, and what's more important, you.
My dear. Look, the masked fighter is with Princess Aura. Ah, the masked champion. Are you a criminal fearing arrest or a noble fearing recognition?
Blue blood or red, my lady. It will flow in the arena just as freely. For your amusement.
Yes. Wear the scarf as a token. But do not stain it with your blood.
Fair lady, a kiss from your gorgeous lips, and I would face the legions of Tau.
Insolent one. I'll have you tortured.
Who can punish the living dead of the tournament? Goodbye, you beautiful devil. I go to fight for your hand.
That masked champion. I swear I know his voice. The call has sounded. I must go back to the fight. Goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, and good luck, my darling. Oh, King Bolton, when will this awful tourney end?
I know it seems horrible to you, little bird, but it is better that Flash should die honorably in the field of battle than at the hands of Ming's torturers. If he wins this final event, he will be a king, and you will be his queen.
The trumpets blow and the last contestants line up. 2 by 2, they mount the sky rope stretched over a flaming pool to joust with swords. And one after another, they are eliminated by death. Finally, only Flash Gordon and the masked champion are left. Flash loses his balance and falls down toward the flaming pool. But his hands catch hold of the rope and he hangs on. The masked champion, thrown off balance, also falls, but saves himself by grasping Flash Gordon's leg. His mask falls off, revealing Prince Baron. The crowd demands that both men shall live, and they are brought before Voltan and Ming the Merciless.
None of your trickery, Ming. Proclaim them both kings.
So be it. But I shall choose their kingdoms. To Prince Barin and my daughter Aura, I give the kingdom of the forest. To Flash Gordon and the Earth Girl, I give the kingdom of the cave.
You fiend. You know neither kingdom has been conquered.
True, Voltan. But these are brave men. Let them try. They can hold their weddings in their own kingdoms if they live that long.
What will happen to Flash Gordon when he attempts to rule over the unconquered kingdom of the cave? You'll know next week at the same time when he'll be back with another chapter of the amazing interplanetary adventures of Flash Gordon. And by the way, what is your favorite picture feature? Bringing Up Father, Skippy, the Katzenjammer Kid, The Little King, Mickey Mouse? Or if you like thrills, then Ace Drummond or Jungle Jim, Radio Patrol or Red Barry. But no matter whatever your favorite, you'll find it next Sunday in the big 32-page comic weekly, along with Toots and Casper, Tilly the Toiler, Little Annie Rooney, Tim Tyler's Luck, and many others. For the big 32-page comic weekly brings you each Sunday the funniest merrymakers and the most daring adventurers in the world of pictures. Be sure to get your copy of the comic weekly next Sunday with your Hearst Sunday newspaper. and listen for the amazing interplanetary adventures of Flash Gordon next week on this station.
Escape tonight to ancient Egypt.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations presents Escape, a new series of programs of which this, the sixth, is The Ring of Thoth by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, produced and directed by William N. Robeson. Wherever the English language is spoken, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is known for two things: his immortal character Sherlock Holmes and his unshakable belief in life beyond the grave. So great is the stature of Sherlock Holmes that Conan Doyle's earlier stories are all but forgotten. Stories like The Ring of Thoth, which so clearly anticipates the author's later fascination with spiritualism. We invite you now to escape to ancient Egypt and The Ring of Thoth, an adventure told in the words of John Vansittart Smith, British Egyptologist.
I arrived in Paris on the 3:14 express from Dieppe and went immediately to my hotel in the Rue de Lafitte. My actions so far had worked out according to my planned schedule. I slept for exactly 2 hours, got up and dressed, donned a greatcoat, walked down the Avenue de l'Opéra, and entered a side door of the Louvre. Once inside, and amid surroundings entirely familiar to me, I made my way immediately to the Chamber of Egyptian Relics, or more specifically, to the cabinet in that chamber which contained the El Kab collection of papyri. Drawing out the particular roll I wished, I placed it on a nearby table, sat down, began to study it, when I noticed one of the museum attendants who was polishing some brasswork across the room. His face struck me as being curiously Egyptian. On sudden impulse, I decided to cross the room and speak to him. Approaching closer, I was impressed at once by the appearance of his skin. Drawn tautly across temple and cheek, it seemed as glazed and as shiny as varnished parchment, and out of narrowed slits there glowed two green and vitreous eyes, misty with a dry shininess, eyes of a kind never seen in a human head before. I beg your pardon. I need one of the papyri from the Memphis collection. Could you tell me where it is?
You'll find it in the last cabinet at the end of the room, monsieur.
Thank you. You're Egyptian, aren't you?
No, monsieur. I am a Frenchman.
But, I thought perhaps...
If monsieur will excuse me now, I have other work to do.
I went back to the table and took up the papyrus I had been studying before. But my former calmness in translating the intricate hieroglyphics was gone, and out of the depths of my mind welled a feeling of terrible familiarity. I concentrated more deeply on my studies, pushing aside those thoughts conducive to mental turmoil, and at last, worn out by the inward struggle, I fell asleep. I awoke with a start, not remembering where I was. It was quite dark for a moment. Then gradually my eyes focused on the glints of moonlight reflected from the glass tops of specimen tables, from the shiny varnish of the mummy cases. And I realized with a feeling of sudden dread that I was alone in the Egyptian room of the Museum of the Louvre, locked in for the night. saw at that moment, approaching through the moonlit halls, a dim yellow flame. Nearer and nearer it came until I could perceive above it, as though floating in the air, the eerie, glistening face of the man I'd spoken to earlier. I shrank into the dark shadow of my corner, and he passed without seeing me, stopping before the mummy cases a few yards away. Scarcely daring to breathe, I watched him place the light on a table and begin feverishly to examine the tags on the specimens. In a moment, he gave a cry of delight and, drawing one of the mummies from its resting place, laid it on the table in the full glow of the lantern and set to work. He was unwinding the wrappings from the head of the corpse. A few turns revealed a tumbled cascade of black curls. A few more, the snow-white brow, then the delicate nostrils, and at last, the full, warm, passionate lips, the face of the most beautiful woman the world has ever seen.
Ma pauvre petite, so long it has been, so very long. You must forgive me, beloved.
I could hardly believe my eyes. The man was obviously in love with this mummy. After a while, he left the body, turning his attention to one of the glass cases filled with an assortment of rings. From a pocket of his garment, he'd taken a small glass bottle containing some kind of liquid, and he used this now to test the rings, rejecting them one after another. Then, at last...
This is it. It's the one. At last I found it. The ring of Thoth.
In his excitement, he dropped the bottle, and I gasped in surprise at the sudden sound.
Who's there?
I beg your pardon.
So it is you. No, do not move.
I didn't mean to spy on you. I fell asleep.
Who are you, monsieur?
I am John Vansittart Smith, a student of Egyptology.
No matter. You will observe this knife.
Yes?
Had I discovered you 5 minutes ago, monsieur, I should have slain you without a word.
What?
As it is now, I have found the ring. But I warn you not to interfere with me in any way.
I really haven't the slightest intention of it. After all, I'm only here by accident.
Perhaps.
I say, you shouldn't have unwrapped that mummy, you know. It's starting to deteriorate already.
Oh, my beloved.
Yes, before our eyes, the lovely face was crumbling, the hair falling away, the skin shriveling and cracking, the lips fading. The man hovered over the decaying body a moment, murmuring sorrowfully. And then he turned again.
No matter. That will not make the least difference in a little while. Of what importance is the dead shell, so long as her spirit waits for me at the other side of the veil?
What are you talking about? What is it you're proposing to do?
Tonight, monsieur, I have ended a quest and broken at last the ancient curse. Nothing now can prevent my joining her.
Are you actually claiming that you knew her?
She was Atma, daughter of the governor of Abaris, and both she and I lived in the reign of Tutmosis 3,500 years ago.
You're obviously mad.
Perhaps, but not in the way you think. There may be design in this, your coming here. It may be decreed that I should leave some account behind as a warning to other mortals as rash as myself. Very well, then. So be it. I am, as you surmised, an Egyptian. My name was Sasra, and my father had been the chief priest of Osiris in the great temple of Abaris, which stood in those days upon the Bubastic branch of the Nile. I was brought up in the temple and was trained in all those mystic arts and sciences known to the priesthood. Of all the mysteries that I studied, none intrigued me more than the question of life and death. And even to this question, in time, I found an answer.
But for a man to live beyond his allotted span of years, Master Sastra, the gods have not so ordained it.
Then perhaps they will have to revise their ordinances now that I've discovered their secret.
'Tis not well to jest. I tremble, for though I've labored in your service for a year, I knew not the goal of your endeavors. May Osiris forgive me.
Ah, what a pity you look upon it this way. For I'd thought that in return for your assistance, I should grant you, too, the gift of centuries of indestructible life.
I would not have it, Master Sastra. And I beg that you, too, forgo it.
Forgo it? I introduced the fluid into my veins 1 month ago.
Oh, no. Then you are lost indeed.
Lost? Do you call this being lost? Let's see now. My heart should be about here.
For that knife. No, don't. Master, you've killed yourself.
Not at all. See? It bleeds a little. But in a while, the wound will close up. And that's all.
It's immortality.
No. I shall not live forever. But for 5,000, perhaps 6,000 years, I shall be immune from all dangers of violence, poison, disease, starvation.
You cannot die?
Now, with this fluid in my veins, nothing in this world can end my life.
Sastra, are you there?
Someone called.
It's Parmes, the priest of Thoth. In here, my friend. Enter.
Oh. Greetings, Sastra, master of sciences, and his worthy assistant.
If you will excuse me, masters, I go to make my peace with Osiris.
What's wrong with your helper, Sastra?
The thought of a well-nigh eternal life has frightened him into gibbering superstition.
Then you still believe in the discovery?
Believe in it? Parmes, my friend. Look.
By the heavens, what a scar.
It pierces the heart. It was done only a moment ago with this knife. See? I can put it back in the wound. So.
You suffered no ill effects?
None whatever.
And if I turned the knife in the wound, that would do you no harm?
You may try it. I feel nothing. I walked last week in the snake pits by the river, was struck innumerable times. It caused no harm.
By the great Anubis.
Will you have it then? Out of all Egypt, I have chosen only you, my friend, to share the gift. But the choice is yours.
I'd be a fool to refuse, Sastra. I'll have it. And now, what must I do?
First, we must open a vein in your wrist. Like this. Then, we drip the elixir slowly into your bloodstream. Steady now.
I don't feel anything.
There is no sensation. It is done.
So simple? There is nothing more?
That's all. And now done, it can never be changed.
It seems incredible, supernatural.
It's no more than a chemical discovery, but with it, while all this about us passes away, you and I, Parmes, will live on for 50 centuries. Think of it, my friend. 5,000 years of life.
5,000 years. Only the two of us.
Listen, that noise. Some procession must be passing in the street.
I have an idea what it may be. Come on over to the window.
Clear the road, stand back, and make way for the loveliest pearl of deep.
She's being carried on the shoulders of slaves, Parmes. She must be some woman of rank.
Her name is Atma. She's the daughter of the new governor.
Her curtains are drawn back. Perhaps we'll have a look at her. Oh, Parmes.
Is she not beautiful?
She is the most desirable, the only utterly desirable woman I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, I saw her yesterday at the temple.
Then you're most fortunate, my friend. You've had 24 more hours to dream about her than I've had. I must know her, Parmes. I must make her love me. I'll send gifts. I'll call on her tomorrow. Oh, it has to be then. I couldn't wait any longer than tomorrow.
beloved of the universe. He is Sasra, priest of the temple of Osiris.
Well, bid him approach.
Enter, Sasra.
Oh, most beautiful of all Egypt, I cast myself at your feet.
That's a noble ambition. But wouldn't it be much better to sit here beside me and watch the fish in the fountain?
Much better.
You will all withdraw. Except you, my girl. Play something for us. At a distance. Well, Sasra, for so I understand you're called, am I to deem this an official visit by a master of the temple?
Oh, Atma, my beloved. That is, no. It is not official.
Oh? Perhaps then you wish to see my father on personal business of your own.
Oh, no. No. I shall pay my respects to him at some other time.
Then could it be I you've come to see?
Yes.
And since you've said the visit's not official, your reason must be a personal one.
Oh, it is.
Well, what is it?
Atma, I have known women who are famed for their beauty throughout the valley of the Nile. But not one, not all of them, are so lovely as you.
How thoughtful of you to come here and tell me.
Atma, I've no wish to intrude my desires, my hopes, beyond such extent as you may wish to hear. But, I'm finding this very difficult.
Sasra, I've been told that you're a master of science, that you've unlocked the secrets of the universe, learned all the mysteries of nature itself.
Your informants have been most generous.
Yes, I'm inclined to think so.
What?
Because you've discovered nothing at all about such a simple thing as a woman's heart.
What do you mean?
I come from Thebes. And the women of Thebes are warm-blooded, passionate. And we know what we want.
Atma.
I saw you first 3 days ago. Why do you think I told my bearers to carry me down that street beneath your window?
And so, miracle of all miracles, Atma loved me. Worshipping the very ground her feet had trod upon, I lived through those glorious weeks, and with it all, our love grew apace. But one thing bore heavily upon my mind, and I came to speak of it more often to my beloved as we sat and talked by the fountain in her garden.
Look, Sasra. See how the stars shine from the water?
Yes, Atma. More lovely even than their glow in the heavens.
Are they very old, the stars?
Very old, beloved. As old as time.
And they'll go on gleaming there, long years after you and I are gone and forgotten.
Atma, my dearest, we've talked of this before, and I know it distresses you to think of it.
No, Sasra. Tonight everything is beautiful. We shall not talk of death.
Not of death, but of life. They're only counterparts of one another.
Oh, if we could only live together. Grow old together and die in the same instant.
But how much better to live and love 5,000 years. Will you not do it? Does so long a time seem too great for the love you feel for me?
Beloved, no. The time would pass in an instant, and the loss then be no easier borne than now.
Then why draw back? Will you not take the elixir now, tonight?
I'm afraid, Sasra. We'll anger the gods.
We will outlive the gods.
They will have their revenge.
Whatever occurred, we'd be together.
Yes, I've thought of that. Were it not so, I'd not even consider doing it.
Then you'll do it. Atma, you'll do it.
I need more time, only a little more to assure myself.
How much?
Tonight, Sasra. Give me tonight.
Every hour you live without the elixir is another hazard. All right, then. Tonight. And may Isis herself guard over you until the fluid courses in your veins. And so, on that accursed night, I went to my chambers and slept. And while I slept, the moon of Isis shone over the delta of the Nile. Shone but to light as foul a scene as was ever done on earth. Some hours had passed away.
Master Sasra, awaken! Master, awaken at once.
No. Who is it?
Oh, what a terrible thing has transpired this night.
You're one of Atma's slaves. Why do you come here?
Oh, Master.
What has happened? What's the matter? Speak.
It is she, the light of the world.
Tell me what has happened to her.
Master. Brigands came in the night. She is dead.
You lie. Oh,
Sasra, the slave speaks the truth.
Parmes, my friend. What foul joke's behind these words of his?
It's not a joke. Atma is dead. You, slave, depart from us.
Yes, Master. By your gracious leave, I depart.
Such a thing cannot be. Oh, of course. The two of you planned it together, sought to frighten me out of my wits. It's very amusing, really. But I was terrified for a moment.
Atma no longer lives. She was stabbed to death only a short while ago.
No. Oh, no. She can't be dead.
She is dead, Sosra, and for all eternity.
I must go to her. Surely something can be done.
I killed her.
What is it? What has happened?
I killed her. Oh. I struck her through the heart with this very knife.
You, Parmes. Why?
Because she loved you.
Why?
And because I loved her.
You, my friend.
She would not look at me.
And for that you would lose her to both of us forever?
To both of us, Sosra? I think not.
By the living Osiris, give me that knife.
That's it. Strike. Again. Here's the heart. Here, strike. Again and again, Sosra.
Wait. What foolishness. I cannot kill you.
You're wrong, Sosra. You have killed me. Those were grievous blows.
But the fluid, that cursed elixir of life, it runs in your veins as well as mine.
True. But in mine is also the antidote.
You lie. There is no antidote.
Yes, day and night. These many weeks I've worked, and I found it.
You couldn't have. Is there more of it?
Yes, a very little. But you'll never find it.
Where is it? Tell me where it is.
In the ring, Sasra. In the ring of Thoth. And you'll never find it.
I will. I must.
Go on. Live your 50 centuries. And every hour of them, think. It was your hand that struck me down. With the same knife that took her from you. Think while I go to join her.
Oh, no. You're not dead. You're not! No! For months, I searched the papers, test tubes, and the chemical flasks in the chambers of the dead priest of Thoth. Searched and found nothing. I sifted the sands where he'd walked, questioned his slaves and servants, and learned nothing. Every moment of my life, my terrible and unwanted life, was devoted to an unceasing hunt for the ring of Thoth, and all to no avail. And in time, a horde of barbarians overran the city of Abaris, and the sands of the desert buried forever the last of my hopes. And so began the deadly march of the centuries. How can you know how terrible a thing time is? You, who've experienced only the narrow course between the cradle and the grave. I've floated down the whole stream of history. I have traveled in all lands, and I have dwelt with all nations. Every tongue is the same to me. I need not tell you how slowly the centuries drifted by. Centuries without end. Years without number. And so, I came to be one day, a few weeks past, in San Francisco, where I came across a certain item in a newspaper.
Among recent discoveries in Lower Egypt is an unopened mummy case containing, according to the inscription on the outside, the body of the daughter of the governor of Abaris in the days of Tutmosis. In the same burial crypt, dropped into a crevice between the stones, was found a large platinum ring of singular design. Both specimens have been sent for examination to the Louvre in Paris.
So, I presume you came here to Paris, obtained this position of attendant in the Louvre with the idea of...
Only yesterday, Monsieur Smith. As you may imagine, I had little difficulty in convincing the director of my knowledge of Egyptian relics.
The ring, then. The one I saw you remove from the case is the ring of Thoth?
Without question.
You've discovered how the ring must be used?
The secret is obvious. See, the stone is hollow, and drops of liquid move within it.
Have you considered the possibility that...
Buck Rogers in the 25th century.
Buck Rogers is on the air. This program is brought to you by the makers of Popsicle, Fudgicle, and Creamsicle, those delicious frozen confections on a stick. And now a message from the famous fellow who won the contest for the typical American boy, Popsicle Pete.
Hello, fellas and girls. Are you saving up bags for those exciting free presents I told you about? Gee, what wonderful gifts you get. Hundreds of them. Roller skates, telescope, movie camera, doll, bracelet, wallet, table tennis. That's only a few. Just save the bags from Popsicle, Fudgicle, and Creamsicle. Ask at your ice cream store for the free Popsicle gift list. It tells you where to send the bags you save and how many to send. You get a free coupon with it worth 10 bags. That'll get you started fine.
Yes, and here's an idea. Get Mom and Dad eating those wonderful confections, too. They're easy to eat on those handy sticks, and they're easy to digest. They're so pure and fresh and wholesome, and, oh, boy, so delicious. You'll get their bags, too, for those marvelous gifts.
Popsicle, Fudgicle, and Creamsicle are biggest for a nickel. Don't forget that.
Yes, but now let's go on with the amazing adventures of Buck Rogers in the 25th century. In our last episode, you recall, we learned that our old friends, Black Barney and Willie, were the ones who took off in the rocket ship equipped with the new gyrocosmic relativator. And we also know that the arch-criminal, Killer Kane, suddenly appeared there aboard Black Barney's rocket ship. But that last is something that Buck and Wilma and Dr. Hewer don't know. And as we join them, they're simply talking things over in the doctor's laboratory. Shall we join them? Okay, then, here we go. 500 years into the future.
Well, Buck, Wilma?
Yes, Doctor?
At least we know that our rocket plane is in good hands. Yes, and that the new gyrocosmic relativator works all right.
Yes, Barney said when he radioed that he took off at full speed, and that he didn't even feel the pull of acceleration.
Well, as long as he's bringing the plane right down again, hadn't we better go over to the spaceport to meet him?
Not much point in going over right away, is there?
Huh?
It took him some time to fly out to wherever he is, and he won't be able to get back any faster.
Yes, was right. And we can put in good time right here in my laboratory, finding out what was taken by whoever ransacked it.
Yeah. Well, whoever broke in couldn't have been here very long.
What makes you think that, Buck?
Well, for one thing, there doesn't seem to have been much damage done. A few drawers pulled out on the desks and cabinets, and only a couple of scientific instruments moved from their usual places.
Well, you know what that indicates.
What, Doctor?
Whoever broke in wanted one particular thing.
Yeah.
And didn't have to waste much time in looking for it.
Come to think of it, Doctor, he couldn't have had very much time. It was only a few minutes after we arrived at the spaceport that the captain of the rocket police discovered this had happened.
Exactly. Well, let's look carefully around and find out what, if anything, is missing.
We can certainly be sure of one thing.
What's that?
This was done by Kane and Ardela. No one else would do such a thing.
Yes, and of course they've just escaped from the municipal prison.
Yes, sir. Don't you see what happened? The minute they got out, they realized they'd need equipment. And there was no more logical place for them to try to find it than right here in this laboratory.
Only one of them was here, though, Wilma.
How do you know?
Well, Police Information Bureau said that when they made their break, Kane and Ardela separated.
Uh-huh.
And what's more, a private citizen saw just one person take off in a rocket roadster from the neighborhood of this laboratory.
Buck, could he identify that person?
No, sir, he was too far away. But he's absolutely sure there was only one.
Maybe we aren't right after all.
Huh?
About it being Kane and Ardela. They usually stick pretty close together. And just getting out of prison would be all the more reason for doing so.
Except that one of them might have come here to get something, while the other tried to lay hands on a rocket ship.
Yes.
Well, we're wasting time just standing around here talking about it. Let's look around and see if anything's missing. Buck.
Yes, sir?
Look through that chest there against the wall and make sure that my bound copies of the formula...
All right, sir.
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir?
The instrument devised by Professor Smith, the mad scientist.
Huh?
The instrument that subjugated people to his willpower when he used it on them.
The psychic restriction ray.
Yes.
Why, it was right over there in that corner, back of where Wilma's standing.
Well, it's not here now.
Well, then we must look for it quickly. An instrument like that in the hands of a man like Kane...
Don't I know it?
Quick, open every cabinet and locker in the place.
Right, okay, Doctor.
With his mad desire for power, why, Kane would use that instrument on everybody he could lay his hands on. No sign of it yet?
Not that I can see, Doctor.
But there must be.
Nothing over here, Doctor.
Well, then suppose you look back in the stockroom, Buck. Perhaps I left the instrument in there.
Yes, sir.
Are you absolutely sure you had it here in your laboratory, Doctor?
Yes, Wilma, absolutely sure. Well, Buck, is it in there?
I'm afraid not, Doctor.
Well, then,
No,
look
sir.
here.
That's what he took, all right.
Well, listen, what we've got to do. Our first thing is to report to the President that we're all ready to set out after Kane and Ardela.
Which, of course, we'll do the minute Black Barney gets our rocket plane back here.
Yes, and we'll need all the information we can get from the rocket police relative to their escape from the municipal prison.
I'll take care of that, Doctor.
And I'll radio the President's office.
Good. We'll go out to the spaceport and meet Barney with our ship.
But, Doctor, is that a good ship for chasing Kane and Ardela?
No, Buck, no. We'll have the gyrocosmic relativator from it installed on a fast-fighting cruiser.
Right. Wilma, the call letters for police information are 413.
Okay, Buck.
Calling X38.
Wilma Deering calling
Buck
413.
Rogers calling X38.
Calling 413.
Calling X38.
Wilma Deering
Buck
calling
Rogers
413.
calling X38.
Yes, Barney. I can't begin to tell you how nice it is to be with you again.
Say now, you listen here now to me, Killer Kane.
And Willie.
Yes, sir.
Some time since I've seen you, too.
Listen, Kane. What's your idea of stowing away on my rocket ship, huh? If you think you're going to get away with
Stand back.
But I tell you...
Stand back.
Yeah.
Don't you know by this time that occasionally my trigger finger gets a bit nervous? And, Barney, a rocket pistol isn't very pleasant at this close range.
Please, you wouldn't shoot Mr. Barney, would you?
Of course not, Willie. Unless he were to make the serious mistake of trying to oppose me. Now, look here.
Yeah, well, what do you want?
A minute ago, you spoke of my having stowed away on your rocket ship.
Yeah.
Your rocket ship. Surely you don't pretend that you were clever enough to have installed a device like this?
You mean that gyro thing?
Barney. How many times must you be told that it's a gyrocosmic relativator?
Mr. Barney can say that word, Mr. Kane, and don't you believe he can either.
Yeah, sure.
Well, the fact remains that neither the ship nor the relativator belongs to you. Am I right?
Well, it's all of this.
Don't try to stall, Barney. You and Willie committed a very serious offense by taking off in this ship without proper authority.
When we talked to Dr. Hewer by radio, he said it was all right, Mr. Kane.
Yeah, and all we need to do is fly back with it.
Yes.
Told you it's all right, eh?
Yes, sir.
And when you merrily land at the central spaceport, you forget all about the fact you ran off with the greatest invention he ever turned out. Not one bit of it.
What do you mean?
The minute you set foot on the ground there at the Niagara spaceport, you will find yourself surrounded by rocket police, ready to throw you into chains.
No, sir. I bet you.
What excuse have you for stealing this rocket ship, Barney?
We didn't. We just took it on a test flight for the gyro thing, so Lieutenant Wilmer, Captain Rogers, and Dr. Ure wouldn't have to take no chances with.
You expect them to believe a story like that?
It's the truth. That's what it is.
Yes, sir, it's the truth.
Yeah, and I tell you, you're crazy to think that you can get away with any such childish excuse. Truth or not. Well, if you have any sense, instead of going back to Niagara to trouble, you'll come along with me.
Huh?
You know, there was a time, Barney, when you were not only willing, but anxious to work with me. And if I remember correctly, you were always well paid for doing it.
That's the times I want to forget, when I didn't know no better than be an air pirate.
At that time, you had a stronghold full of treasure that would have been the envy of all nations. You had gold, power. You can have those things again, Barney, my boy. If you'll use your head and come along with Ardela and me.
Don't you know that I've outgrown all that sort of stuff?
That's your misfortune, Barney. As an air pirate, you were quite a success, weren't you?
Yeah, sure I was.
But what happened? You got silly and sentimental listening to Wilman Deering stuff your empty head full of ideas about reforming and going straight.
Hey, don't you say nothing against Lieutenant Wilmer.
Get back.
All right.
What has it got? Nothing.
Mr. Barney's the Prime Minister of Mars, don't forget.
Yeah, that's right.
Prime Minister of Mars?
Yeah.
What does that make me? King of Pluto?
It's a big job, Mr. Kane. Why, if Mr. Barney wasn't their Prime Minister, I don't know what the Martian people would do.
Yeah.
You just ask King Analdo what he thinks of Mr. Barney.
Yeah.
That doddering old fool? Why, just to show you how helpless he is, I may go up there to Mars one of these days and establish a headquarters.
Not if I got anything to say about it. No, sir.
No, sir.
You won't have anything to say about it, Barney, unless some sudden and unexpected flash of intelligence leads you to team up with me.
I don't know what you're up to, Kane, and I don't care no matter what it is.
No, Barney?
But no matter what it is, me and Willie ain't going to have nothing to do with it.
Unfortunately, you're going to change your mind about that, Barney. And very shortly.
You're crazy. There's nothing that would make me change my mind about that. Not even nothing.
No, sir.
Well, we'll see. This rocket ship is back in the general direction of Earth, isn't it?
Sure. It's just by looking on the viewplate of the teleradioscope or by looking out of one of the forward windows?
No sarcasm, Bob. Move out of that control seat.
No, sir. I'm taking this ship back to the center spaceport.
Do I have to keep waving this like a pistol at to show that I mean business?
Okay. Go ahead and sit in the control seat.
On second thought, though, I believe I'll let you do the work of navigation.
Huh?
Now, I want you to land us to the ruins of the ancient city of Philadelphia.
Philadelphia?
There we'll meet Adela. You see, Barney, before she left Niagara, she made a stop at the laboratory of your dear friend, Dr. Hure, and picked up a rather interesting scientific instrument.
What are you talking about?
I have a sneaking suspicion it will help you come around to my point of view. As a matter of fact, Barney, I'm sure of it.
Well, sir, I certainly hate to hear Kane say that, because it can mean only one thing. Killer Kane plans to put Black Barney under the psychic restriction ray that Ardela stole from Dr. Hure's laboratory. That ray will completely subjugate Barney to Kane's will. Well, now, Pete, how about refreshment? What do you say to a great big ice-cold creamsicle on a stick?
Oh, boy. Ice cream in the middle and thick chocolate fudge outside?
That's right. creamy chocolate fudge, or tempting fresh fruit flavors. Take your choice. Creamsicles are all 5 cents, all delicious, nourishing, wholesome. Made fresh every day under the strictest pure food laws and protected by U.S. registered trademark.
And listen, pals, don't forget to save your creamsicle bags for these wonderful gifts, like a camera, table tennis, a wristwatch, wallet, baseball, sleeping dolls. Get your free illustrated gift list in your ice cream store.
Wheat checks, rice checks, and good hot Wilson presents Space Patrol! High adventure in the wild, vast reaches of space. Missions of daring in the name of interplanetary justice. Travel into the future with Buzz Corey, Commander-in-Chief of the Space Patrol! In today's transcribed adventure, Buzz and Happy are stranded on the Martian desert, 100 miles from the nearest city. They've just come to an expanse of tiny green plants, carpeting the desert for miles.
Something's wrong with my throat, Commander. It feels tight. It's hard to breathe.
Mine's the same way, Happy.
It couldn't be the dust coming up from the ground,
No, it comes from the plants. Every time you take a step, the plants shoot out spores, poisoning the atmosphere.
It's getting worse, Commander.
What's still worse, these are poisonous lichens.
Poison? What are we going to do, sir? We can't go back.
No, if we go on, these plant spores will paralyze our breathing muscles. We'll suffocate.
We'll be back in just a moment with today's Space Patrol story, The Electronic Buglar. Say, you want to have some fun, gang? Well, listen to this jet cycle. There's nothing in the tank but ordinary fuel, and here's the result. Just a putt-putt. That's all it is with ordinary fuel, but pour in some super fuel. Wow, that jet cycle is supercharged now. Yes, sir, gang. When it comes to supercharging, you need super fuel. And the same thing is true of you, especially in the morning when you haven't had a bite to eat for hours. So to really get up ahead of steam, to really get set for a lightning takeoff, you have to get supercharged. And here's Buzz Corey's way of doing it. He eats a good breakfast with rice checks or wheat checks, the super cereals that help to supercharge you. Bite-sized checks. Checks, the cereals that taste so good. Checks, the cereals that are so crisp, so absolutely different. So take a tip from Buzz Corey. Eat a good breakfast with a super cereal and get supercharged. The super cereals, rice checks, wheat checks. Even on the man-made planet Terra itself, few citizens are aware of the existence of the Maris Design and Development Company. Yet from Mercury to Pluto, there's hardly a man, woman, or child whose life isn't made more secure and pleasant because of the engineering know-how in the creation of electronic devices by the Maris Company. And so when Howard Maris reported that his Terra offices had been burglarized, Commander Corey assumed personal charge of the investigation. Right now, Buzz and Happy are standing before the damaged door of the Maris Company vault, questioning the perplexed and worried executive, Howard Maris.
I can't understand why the alarm system didn't work. I set it myself last night, just as I always do.
How do you set it?
There's a lock switch in my private office. Once that switch is set, nobody can force an entrance to the building without setting off the alarm.
Well, what if somebody had the key to the outside doors?
If they used it before regular opening time, even a key would set off the alarm.
The only sign of force, inside or out, is at the vault door. Mr. Maris, are you positive you set the alarm switch last night?
Absolutely. And the alarm did work, you know.
Yes, but several hours too late. By the time our men got here, the metal on the Endurium door had cooled where the atomo torch had melted it.
It's the most baffling thing I've ever run into, Commander.
Mm-hmm. One fact is pretty clear, Mr. Maris.
Yes, what's that?
Whoever did this job was extremely familiar with your operations.
Are you suggesting it was an inside job?
Yeah, it almost had to be. Just look at what was taken.
Yes, the anoscope plans. The most valuable thing in the vault.
Excuse me, sir, but what is this anoscope?
It's a device for detecting mineral deposits hundreds of feet underground.
It's 10 times more efficient than any other instrument or method we have. Those plans in the hands of someone who knows their value are worth at least 1 million space credits.
Wow.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, Maris here. Oh, very well. Commander, I'm wanted in my office. Would you excuse me, please? Surely, Mr. Maris. Go ahead. Thank you.
Well, Commander, if it was an inside job, why did the thief have to use an atomo torch on the vault? He got into the building without setting off the alarm.
The alarm didn't go off until the thief was safely away. If I didn't know Maris so well, I'd suspect him of being involved in the robbery.
Well, how about his chief engineer, Cheller?
Well, they've both agreed to a brainograph test. I think they'll pass it. They've worked with Robbie and me on top-secret projects a number of times. Maris and Cheller are exceptionally honest.
Well, the security department men have gone over everything and haven't found a single clue. What's the next step?
The brainograph.
Excuse me, sir, but have a look at this.
What?
On the floor of the vault here, it looks like broken glass.
It is. Somebody dropped his glasses. Gather it up carefully, Happy.
Yes, sir. Well, there's hardly anything left but slivers.
Don't cut yourself, but get all of it.
Hey, Maris doesn't wear glasses.
Neither does Cheller. Happy, don't mention this to anyone. We'll have a check made on Maris employees to see who does wear glasses. I hope there are enough large pieces there to tell what the optical formula is.
I've got it, sir. The pieces are in this piece of paper.
All right, Hap. We'll turn it over to the lab.
Goodbye, Stokes. And so long, Maris, and thanks. Don't make that any time.
Now, Commander, you mentioned a brainograph test whenever you're ready. Fine, Mr. Maris. By the way, the man who just left, he looks familiar.
Oh, that was Ward Stokes. He's a precision machinist. Does special assignments for me from time to time.
Oh, sure. I remember him now. About a year ago, Major Robertson had him work on a special view scope for the security lab.
Oh, that's so? I had him in mind for the anoscope job.
Did you discuss it with him?
Oh, no. No, I wouldn't do that until I'd checked with security. That's our standard policy on really important jobs. Stokes just dropped in to pick up an instrument case he left in my office.
I see.
Your man, Captain Scoville, talked to him.
Captain Scoville and his men will remain on duty here for a day or two, Mr. Maris, checking the alarm system.
Yes, Commander, I understand.
They won't interfere with your regular operations any more than they have to. Now, if you'll get Cheller, Happy and I will take you to headquarters for the brainograph test.
Oh, Stokes, you got the case all right.
Yes, walked right into Maris' office. One of Corey's men gave me the once-over, but didn't even stop me.
Has the case been tampered with?
Oh, it was on the floor exactly where I left it yesterday. After all, it looks just like what it's supposed to be, an instrument case.
Yes. Not even Boss Corey would suspect this small box of being an electronic burglar.
And now that we've got it back here, no one will ever suspect. Oh, I see you found your spare glasses.
Yeah. You know, I've worn glasses for 30 years, and I never broke a pair till last night.
And you never cracked a safe till last night either. Oh, did you?
Well, if I did, I wouldn't have been so awkward when I removed the protective goggles.
Nah. Well, it was a small price to pay for what we've got.
Yes. That reminds me, you better put that robot burglar away and help me copy the anoscope design.
Where do you want me to put the burglar?
In the staging room for now.
All right. This stage set's a great piece of work, even if I do say so myself. Startling duplicate of Maris' private office.
Well, it would have to be, wouldn't it? Otherwise, we couldn't have trained our mechanical helper to find the alarm switch in the real office.
You know, I've made dozens of machines operated by electric eyes, but until you came along, it never occurred to me to,
Yes, to make a machine that works for you instead of somebody else.
Yes, Bartram, I guess that's it. The toughest part of the whole job was getting a hold of Maris' burglar alarm key long enough to make a duplicate.
Maris doesn't suspect us. Corey doesn't suspect us. I'd say we pulled it off without a hitch. But now we better get ready to blast off from Mars.
Happy, I suppose you heard the results of the brainograph test.
Yes, sir. Maris and Scheller didn't have anything to do with the robbery.
Not only that, but they haven't the remotest idea who might have done it.
That's great, except that it doesn't help us much. Oh, how about the fragments of glasses?
Well, the lab couldn't tell a thing. The boys did their best, but the pieces aren't big enough to indicate the optical formula.
Oh, well. Maybe it wasn't a thief that dropped it there anyway.
Maybe not. Maris says that he and Cheller are the only ones that go into the vault. We would get this clue just when our chief optical expert is in the hospital.
Dr. Pricer?
Yes. I contacted Pricer and showed him the fragments on the telescreen. He thinks he could determine the lens formula after he's out of the hospital.
When will that be?
In 10 days. You know, I think I'll take his suggestion. Pricer says this man Stokes might be able to help us.
Stokes? Oh, the fellow Maris was talking about?
Yes. Stokes helped Pricer on some high-precision optical work a while back. Pricer thinks he's great.
He could well be, with both Maris and Pricer raving about him.
Now, let's pay him a visit, Happy, and see if he can put our glass jigsaw puzzle together. Mr. Stokes, I imagine you're a pretty busy man, but at the moment, you're the only one who can help us.
I'm rather rushed, Commander, but if it's for the Space Patrol, I'll be glad to if I can.
I have some fragments of what apparently was once a pair of glasses. Can you determine the optical formula from these small pieces?
Why, it would be rather difficult. May I ask why you want this information?
By tracing the prescription, we might be able to check with various opticians and find a thief.
A thief?
Yes. Confidentially, I'll tell you that these fragments were found in Maris's vault after the burglary. You know about that, of course.
Yes, perfectly outrageous. And this is the only clue you have?
So far.
Oh. Well, I'm afraid I couldn't give you a very accurate analysis, Commander.
I see. Well, perhaps Dr. Pricer can do it when he gets out of the hospital.
However, let me examine these fragments more closely. Will you let me take them into my lab in the next room?
Of course.
It won't take me long to find out if further tests will be worthwhile.
He didn't seem very interested at first, Commander.
It's a challenge to his ingenuity. He'll probably help us.
All these pictures of gadgets on the walls. Are these Stokes' inventions?
I suppose so.
Hey, come and look at this one, sir. The picture here by the door.
All right.
It's a miniature viewscope, no bigger than your hand.
An amazing piece of construction.
Well, I'd like to see the actual thing. Hey, I wonder what's in this room here.
Happy.
Oh, well, I wasn't snooping, sir. I just thought... Hey, look at this.
What is it?
For a minute, I thought I'd been here before. But this is an exact duplicate of Maris's private office.
It does look like it. Same furniture arrangement, same size, same fixtures.
Yeah, maybe the same person designed the offices, and Maris's is just like Stokes.
No, I don't think so, Happy.
What do you mean, sir?
These walls don't reach the ceiling. This is a room built inside a larger room, like a stage set.
You're right. It seems kind of silly.
It certainly does. And then...
Hey, what's that, Commander?
Machinery of some kind, but I don't see... Oh, it's that instrument case. The lid's opening.
Look at it, Commander. Now the whole case is moving, rolling across the floor.
I wonder what could have started that thing up.
Now look, it's running a long rod up in the air.
Yeah, very ingenious. A telescoping rod in sections with a key on the end of it.
Sure like to have one of those things. Hey, looks like it's on its way to unlock something.
Mm-hmm. To unlock a mystery. Watch it closely, Happy.
What am I going to tell him about you? Well, tell him you can probably figure out the optical prescription. Then, in a day or two, give him a fake formula. Good. Then Corey will never be able to trace you. Go tell him and get him out of here. Yes. Commander, I've got good news for you. Commander, where are you?
In here, Stokes.
Oh.
Happy and I are watching this fantastic gadget of yours.
How does that thing get started? Here, I'll shut it off.
No, wait. Let's see what it does.
It's just a silly toy. I'll turn it off.
Later, Stokes.
But Commander.
Hey, it acts like it's looking for something. Now it's heading right for that little doozy on the wall there.
The lock switch.
It's feeling for the keyhole.
A very clever machine, Stokes. So that's how the alarm system was shut off.
What do you mean?
You can't deny this room is an exact replica of Maris's office.
Suppose it is. Lots of offices are alike.
I see. Then, of course, you won't mind taking a brainograph test.
That'll be enough snooping, Corey. Get your hands out. You too, cadet. Get their weapons, Stokes. Yes, Barger. Keep behind them in case I have to use this ray gun.
So you're Stokes' partner in the burglary. Voucher, huh?
Hold them, Stokes. Confounded men, you should have locked the door. How did I know they'd be coming here? And that robot. How did it get started? The timing mechanism. I forgot to shut it off.
So just 12 hours after the robbery, it started up again.
Yeah. In another 3 hours, the robot would turn the lock switch back on, move back to its original position, withdraw its wheels and levers, and become an innocent instrument case again.
Too bad Stokes has such a good reputation as a precision machinist, or we'd never have come here.
It is too bad, Corey. But I'm afraid it's too bad for you.
What are we going to do with them?
We can't dispose of them here on Terra. We'll take them to my lab on the Martian desert, where they'll never be found.
We'll be back with Space Patrol in just a moment. Say, gang, listen to this boy going to the breakfast table. He doesn't care if he ever gets there, does he? He doesn't like his breakfast cereal, that's why. No zip, no lift, no flavor. Now, here's a girl. Listen to how she goes to breakfast. She doesn't even bother about going. Same trouble. A cereal dull as can be. No taste, no tang, no nothing. Now, here's another youngster going to breakfast. No wonder he's in a hurry. He's really going for breakfast, because this fella does what Buzz Corey does. He has a checkerboard super cereal for breakfast every single morning. Rice Chex or Wheat Chex. The cereals with that modern bite-sized design for easy eating. And boy, it's not just the size that makes Chex easy to eat. It's that flavor. Man, oh man, Chex have a flavor that keeps that spoon of yours going up and down, up and down, up and down until the cereal bowl's empty. So get the cereals that have you sprinting to the table for them. The super cereals that help to supercharge you. Rice Chex, Wheat Chex. Bart and Happy have been captured by two criminals who stole designs for a valuable new mineral detection device from the Marist Design and Development Company vault. The thieves, Stoke and Boucher, have locked the space patrolman in a compartment on a spaceship and are heading for a hideout on the Martian desert.
Certainly aren't taking any chances, sir. My wrists are tied so tight, my fingers are numb.
If we can work loose before the ship lands, we might be able to fight our way out of this mess, Happy. Keep at it.
Yes, sir.
Now, they cut the rockets. Feel that increased gravity pull?
Yes, sir.
If they're carrying out their original plans, it means we're landing on Mars. We've got to work fast before they can land.
Unload the compartment, Stokes. I'll keep them covered.
All right.
Now, you two on your feet. Let's check these ropes. Turn around. I said turn around. And I say something, I mean it, Corey.
I'll remember that, Boucher.
With the little time you got left, I suggest you dwell on more pleasant memories. Okay. The ropes are still tight. Get moving, you two. This is our little Martian hideout. Sure is a filthy little hideout. Well, maybe we'll let you clean it up before we do away with you.
Let's get some heat on. I'm freezing.
Stokes, you're going right back to the ship and blast off for Lowell City.
You still think I should make contact with Thoth?
Yes. I'll stay here and guard Corey and the cadet until everything is set. Leave the designs here.
I'll put them in the cupboard.
All right. If you find everything safe in Lowell City, then make arrangements for getting the money from Thoth, and we'll hand over the design.
When do we get rid of Corey and the cadet?
Just as soon as you get back. Nobody will ever find them out here in the desert. You better get going.
Oh, I wanted to ask you a couple of things. Come out to the ship with me.
Well, all right. I don't imagine you'll want to leave, Corey. But we'll lock the door just in case. Well, sir, we've got until Stokes gets back to get out of here.
Even if we overpower Boucher, we'll need Stokes' ship to escape. Do you see a space phone in here?
No, sir. But maybe there's one hidden around someplace.
Happy, there's a heating control. Kick the switch with your foot.
You cold, sir?
No, but put it on full, quickly.
Yes, sir. There it is, sir.
Good. Now, if this room will just heat up in a hurry.
Well, there goes Stokes.
Now, when Boucher comes into this heated room, I have a hunch he'll have some trouble with his glasses.
Huh?
Coming in from the cold air, they'll fog up just like the windows.
Hey, yeah, then we can rush him.
The best we can hope to do is knock him down with a headlong dive until we can get our hands free. Here he comes. Get ready.
Yes, sir. All right, gentlemen. Now we'll just relax. Oh, you got the heat on. I told you space patrolmen wear hardy souls accustomed to cool. Confound it. My glasses are...
Okay, Happy?
Get off of me.
He dropped his gun, Commander. Take it out of the way. That's it.
Can you handle Boucher with your hands tight, sir?
I won't have to. They're loose, Happy. All right, Boucher.
Let go of me.
And stop struggling. On your feet. I'll take the gun, Happy. Boucher, untie the cadet.
Wait till I get my breath. You knocked all the wind out of me.
It's all right, sir. The ropes are working loose. Good. Boucher, is there a spacephone in this building?
No, there was a portable set on the ship, but I forgot to bring it in.
You just have to wait till Stokes returns. You get a nice surprise when he walks in that door.
Should we tie Boucher up, sir?
That might be a good idea. You won't have to watch him so closely. Boucher, get away from that cupboard.
I'll get him, Commander.
They're not there. They're gone.
What are you talking about?
The anoscope design. Stoke never put them in a cupboard.
I saw him walk over there.
He double-crossed me. The dirty rat.
What good would they do you if they were there?
Don't you see? Stoke isn't coming back, and we're stuck here.
He's right, Happy. This puts all of us in a tough spot. Boucher, how far did you say it was to the nearest city?
100 miles. 100 miles of desert.
We don't have any way to call for help.
We'll die out here. We only got food for 2 days.
Maybe. But we're not going to stay here. Let's take what food and water we can and start across the desert.
On foot? We could never make it.
We're going to try it. Now, where's the food locker? Come on, Boucher. You're lagging behind.
Don't make me walk anymore, please.
You got yourself into this mess. We're going to keep moving.
All right. I'll try to make it.
That's it. Now stop blubbering and save your breath.
Hey, these green plants are all around us.
They're lichens, Happy. In the Martian summer, they turn rust-colored.
Stop. Wait.
Now what?
I feel sick. Something's wrong with my throat.
Well, I don't feel so good myself, but we've got to keep moving.
Hold on a minute. There's something strange in the air.
It's dust coming up from the ground, sir. Every time we step, a little puff of dust spurts up.
From the lichens, Happy. They're spores.
Spores?
Yes, tiny cells from these plants. This kind is poison.
What?
It's getting into our throats, lungs.
Let's get out of them, quick.
But we've got to keep on going.
The plants stretch for miles in all directions except behind us.
Then let's go back.
We can't go back. Commander, these spores, what do they do?
If we keep inhaling them, they'll paralyze our breathing muscles. We'll suffocate.
I'm going back.
Boucher, come back here. Grab him, Happy.
Boucher, keep your head. All this stomping around's making it worse.
Stand still, Boucher. Be quiet. Look around, examine the terrain. Maybe we can find a bare stretch of ground.
It's hopeless. We're trapped. Trapped on the desert.
I said be quiet. See anything, Happy?
No, sir. Except up that low hill there. Seems to be a tower of some kind.
Yes, a power relay tower. There's one every 20 miles.
Maybe there's a spaceophone at the tower. If we can get there, we could call for help.
That's worth a try. Come on, let's go.
Come on, Boucher. Just a few yards more.
I can hardly breathe.
I don't see anything that looks like a spaceophone, Happy.
Neither do I, sir. Just some wheels and gears.
Those are to adjust the receiving and deflecting coils at the top of the tower.
You mean we can't call for help after coming all this way?
I'm afraid not.
Then what good is this monstrosity? We'll all die here under the tower.
Look, Boucher, lie down and rest a minute and keep quiet.
Sir, by looking at the coils, can't we tell the direction to take to Lowell City?
Yes, but it's straight across those poison lichens. Now, wait a minute. If we were to turn those wheels, it would interrupt the power beam. The beam would miss the next relay tower.
Hey, yeah, they'd have to send somebody out to investigate.
Well, then do it. Turn the wheels. Cut off the power.
Boucher, do you realize that human lives may depend on that power beam?
Well, what about our lives? Our lives depend on it, too. Turn it off.
What we might do, Happy,
Turn it off.
might deflect it slightly, just enough to register on the instruments at the monitor station.
Well, how could we be sure we weren't turning it too far?
See that dial? It points to 0. That means it's right on the beam. The red lines on either side are the danger limits. Here, let's release the holding mechanism. Now we'll turn the wheel carefully.
The indicator's still on 0, sir.
The control mechanism has a high gear ratio for accurate focusing of the beam.
Now it's moving, sir. Halfway to the danger line.
That ought to alert the maintenance crew. Now we'll spin the wheel the other way, back and forth.
Want me to take over again, sir? You must be tired.
All right, Happy. Thanks.
You've been doing that for half an hour and nothing happened. Turn the beam off. Clear off. That's the only way to make them pay attention. It'll be dark in a little while. Nobody will be able to see us.
Commander, look. It's an atmosphere ship.
And it's headed right for the tower.
Oh, wait for them. Make sure he sees us.
He'll see us, don't worry. It's a power commission ship, all right, sir. See the big red circle on the hull?
All right, Happy. He's coming in for a landing. Set the indicator back to 0.
There it is, sir. I'll lock it in place. Control secured, sir.
All right, let's get to the ship. We've got an appointment with Stokes in Lowell City.
I told you and the commander how you can pick up Stokes and the man who's going to buy the design. They will go on my record, won't they?
Oh, sure, but I'm afraid it's a little late now to start thinking about getting off easily.
Happy, I just talked to a little city space control in the pilot's spacephone. They're putting a guard around Stokes' ship in case he tries to blast off.
Fine. When do we get to Lowell City?
In a couple of minutes. We'll turn Boucher over to the spaceport guards and go after Stokes and Don.
Well, Stokes, the designs seem to be complete.
They're all there, Mr. Thoth. And now I'd like my money.
Of course. I'm glad you and Boucher changed your minds and made a straightforward business deal.
The original plan was just a precaution in case we were being followed. But everything worked out so well.
All right, Stokes. I'll take those plans.
Boy.
Get Tharp happy. I'll handle Stokes. Yes, sir. Where do you think you're going? All right, Stokes. You had enough?
Oh, yes, Corey. Let up.
I've got Tharp, Commander.
Keep them covered. I'll get the anoscope design.
Yes, sir. All right, Stokes. Move over next to your partner.
Just tell me one thing. How did you get out of the desert?
Well, Commander, why don't we let Boucher explain that to him? It'll give them something to talk about for the next several years they're going to be spending together.
We'll be back with an action preview of next week's exciting Space Patrol story in just a moment. Say, you want to hear something funny? Well, listen to this. That's a word scrambler, gang. A machine that scrambles secret messages sent by space patrollers over the spaceophone. Now, do you want to know what the message said? Well, here, I'll have it unscrambled for you. To get supercharged, eat a good breakfast with Instant Ralston. That's one of the most important messages a space patroller ever sent. Yes, sir, when you sit down to a good breakfast with good hot Ralston, well, boy, oh, boy, that's your day to shine. For Instant Ralston packs a wallop in every spoonful. It's rich whole wheat. Remember, rich whole wheat. That means it'll warm up your motor, tune up your thinker, help start off your day with a bang. Yes, that's the kind of start Buzz Corey gets. That's the kind of start you need to be a winner just like him. So come on, Space Patrollers, get supercharged. Eat a good breakfast with good hot Ralston. And now for a preview of next week's exciting Space Patrol story. Buzz and Happy are on Venus on a farm where food is chemically grown in large tanks. As they walk toward a building where Tonga is held captive, huge sun mirrors atop several tall towers turn ominously toward them.
Oh, the rocket, Commander, is really getting hot all of a sudden.
Yes, waves of heat. Even for Venus, this is unusual.
Oh, my eyes. What a glare.
Happy, don't look at those reflectors. They'll blind you.
Let's run for the building and get out of the sun.
Pat, look out. They're focusing those sun mirrors on us.
A whole battery of them are pointed right toward us.
Maybe we can dodge them. Run back this way.
Commander, they've got us surrounded by those heat beams, and they're closing in.
They hit us with all those at once. We're finished for good.
Be sure to be with us next Saturday for the exciting story, The Space Shark, when wheat checks, rice checks, and good hot Ralston again bring you Space Patrol! And now here's a message from Commander Buzz Corey.
Here's a little riddle. What is it that is scarce, valuable, and necessary, yet given away free? The answer is blood, the gift of life. Yes, when grown-ups give blood at the Red Cross Center, they don't receive money, but they do receive the wonderful, deep-felt satisfaction of knowing they helped save a life. Now, how would you like to help me get more people to save lives? Join my Space Patrol Blood Boosters. It's lots of fun, so how about it? Join today.
Space Patrol, an original Mike Moser production, starring Ed Kemmer as Commander Corey and Lynn Osborne as Cadet Happy, was written by Lou Houston and directed by Larry Robertson. Other players were Bela Kovacs, Ken Mayer, and Norman Jolly. Dick Tufel speaking. Now, don't forget to tune in next Saturday and every Saturday when wheat checks, rice checks, and good hot Ralston again present the new exciting Space Patrol! And be sure to see another exciting Space Patrol story on your local ABC television station. Consult your local paper for time and channel. Space Patrol comes to you transcribed from Hollywood. This is ABC Radio Network.